No one announced the meeting. No cameras were set up for it. No crowd gathered expecting spectacle. It happened in a place where effort was measured in silence, not applause. Late afternoon, an industrial gym tucked between concrete warehouses, its windows clouded by years of chalk dust and heat. The air was heavy with iron and sweat. Every sound lingered longer than it should have. The dull clank of plates, the slow exhale of men between sets, the low hum of electricity running through old lights overhead. This was not a dojo. It was not a stage. And yet, two worlds were about to overlap. At one end of the room stood a man whose presence felt compressed, as if gravity behaved differently around him. Massive shoulders, dense muscle carved by years of isolation and punishment. His movements were minimal, deliberate, economical, the kind that come from a life spent lifting weight beyond reason. This was Dorian Yates, known to a small circle as the Shadow. A man who believed power was built away from witnesses, in places where pain became familiar and doubt was trained out of the body. To Dorian, strength was something you carried, something you could measure, something that left evidence. Across the room, almost unnoticeable at first, was another figure. Lean, compact, still. He did not warm up loudly. He did not occupy space. Bruce Lee moved like someone conserving energy, not because he lacked it, but because he understood its cost. His posture was relaxed, yet alert, as if his body was listening even when his mind appeared elsewhere. He wore no uniform, no symbols, nothing to announce authority. If you didn't know who he was, you might miss him entirely. That was the contradiction. The gym itself seemed unaware of what was about to occur. Men continued their sets. A small group leaned casually against a wall, talking in low voices. No one expected confrontation. No one expected instruction. And yet, tension had already entered the room. Dorian noticed Bruce not because of movement, but because of stillness. In a place where bodies were constantly in motion, stillness became visible. Bruce wasn't watching the lifters. He wasn't scanning the room. He appeared focused on nothing and everything. Dorian had seen men like Bruce before. Smaller, faster, fighters who relied on speed and confidence. They always believed movement could compensate for mass. They were usually wrong. Strength, as Dorian understood it, was undeniable. It bent bars. It tore muscle fibers and rebuilt them thicker. It left marks. It did not need explanation. Bruce, on the other hand, represented something less tangible, an idea more than a form. A man whose reputation traveled faster than proof, whose philosophy unsettled those who preferred clear hierarchies. No one introduced them. They simply ended up standing near the same open space on the floor, as if drawn there by an invisible geometry. Dorian wiped his hands on a towel, nodding politely. No challenge in his eyes, just confidence, the quiet kind that comes from years of dominance. "I've seen what you do," Dorian said, his voice calm, grounded. "Impressive speed." Bruce smiled faintly. Not flattered, not dismissive. "Speed is only visible when it's wasted," he replied. The words landed without force, yet something in the room shifted. A few nearby lifters slowed their movements, listening without appearing to listen. Dorian raised an eyebrow. "Then what matters?" Bruce didn't answer immediately. He took a slow breath, feeling the floor beneath his feet, the air moving in and out of his lungs. "Timing," he said, "an intention." Dorian nodded. He had heard philosophy before. Fighters often spoke when they lacked substance. He gestured toward his own body, not boastfully, just factually. "This," he said, "is built by resistance, by load, by pushing until the body adapts or breaks. There's no illusion here." Bruce looked at him carefully, as if studying not muscle, but rhythm. "I don't disagree," Bruce said, "but resistance can also be used against itself." That was the moment the room fell quiet, not because of confrontation, but because something unspoken had been acknowledged. A challenge had appeared, one that should not exist. Dorian stepped closer, not threatening. "Curious now. You're saying mass doesn't matter." Bruce shook his head. "I'm saying mass is honest, but incomplete." They stood less than an arm's length apart. The difference between them was stark. Dorian was density and weight. Bruce was alignment and economy. One looked immovable. The other looked uncommitted and therefore unpredictable. Around them, a small audience had formed without intention. No one spoke. Even the machines seemed quieter. Dorian crossed his arms. Then show me. Bruce did not adopt a stance. He did not raise his hands. He shifted his weight, barely. The movement was so small, it could have been mistaken for nothing at all. But in that instant, something occurred that the mind struggled to register. Bruce was suddenly closer than before. Not by a step, by an absence of space. His hand made contact with Dorian's chest. Not a strike, not a push, a placement. Dorian felt it. Not pain, not pressure, but interruption. As if the signal between intention and action had been briefly severed. Bruce withdrew his hand. The moment ended before it could be named. Dorian blinked once. Slowly. How did you do that? Someone whispered from the edge of the group. Bruce didn't answer. He was watching Dorian. Again, Dorian said. This time, it was not curiosity. It was attention. Dorian adjusted his stance slightly. Not defensive, prepared. His body knew how to generate force. He had mastered it through repetition and sacrifice. Bruce waited. Silence stretched. Then Dorian shifted his weight forward, just enough. Bruce moved. No wind-up. No visible acceleration. His body aligned and delivered intention directly through space. Another touch. Another interruption. This time, Dorian took half a step back without choosing to. The audience reacted collectively. A sharp inhale, restrained but unmistakable. Bruce stepped away. This isn't strength, Dorian said quietly. It's something else. Bruce nodded. Strength is what happens when resistance meets resistance. This happens before that. Dorian exhaled slowly. His confidence was still there, but had been reframed. He gestured toward a heavy bag hanging nearby. Hit it, he said. Show me without touching me. Dorian struck first. A powerful blow. The bag swung violently, chains rattling against the ceiling. Bruce watched, then stepped close to the bag, closer than seemed useful. He focused on a single point, as if seeing beyond the surface. His strike was quiet. The bag did not swing. It compressed. The sound was dull, internal, like something collapsing inward rather than being pushed away. Dorian placed a hand on the bag, feeling the vibration travel through it. You didn't move it, he said. I didn't try to, Bruce replied. I went through it. That was when understanding began, not intellectually, but physically. Bruce explained without teaching. He spoke simply, about intention traveling faster than instruction, about the delay introduced by conscious thought, about the body responding most truthfully when a mind stops narrating. Dorian listened, not as a challenger, but as a student encountering a blind spot. They tested distance, timing, reaction. Dorian attempted to make contact. Bruce was never where he expected. Not far, just elsewhere. It was not domination. It was absence. Eventually, Dorian lowered his hands. I've spent my life adding weight, he said. You've been subtracting something. Bruce considered this. I've been removing hesitation, he said. No victory was claimed. No lesson declared complete. They stood among witnesses who would later argue about what they had seen, or whether they had seen anything at all. Bruce gathered his things quietly. Dorian remained still, looking at his own hands as if reconsidering their purpose. The room slowly returned to noise. Machines resumed. Conversations restarted. But something irreversible had occurred. Not a fight, not a defeat, a shift. And whether it happened exactly this way, or only in the space between belief and possibility, one truth remained uncomfortable. Size did not win. Speed did not win. Understanding did. Was this mastery or myth? Do you believe precision can overcome size, or does mass always win in the end? Leave your interpretation below. This story was never meant to be settled.